at that young of an age, not quote unquote looking like everyone else, and that being such an obstacle? Were you self-conscious?
It's just a matter of getting through it. And I think at this point in my life, like looking back, I'm glad I went through the situations I went through. I wasn't sheltered, I wasn't coddled. And so I have a perspective that not everyone has when it comes to dealing with adversity, dealing with difference, and being able to just steamroll through it. Like right now, I'm just like, whatever. If you have a problem, that's your problem. Actually, it's not mine, because you're closing your own viewpoints and your own perspectives, and you have to be able to open them back up.
Joining us in the studio today is an American Paralympic skier and cyclist. She's medaled in both skiing and cycling events. She has a mechanical engineering degree from the University of Denver and is currently a design engineer for RockShox. Please welcome Allison Jones. Hi, Allison.
Howdy.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic.
So good to have you on the show. And you are our first internal team member at SRAM and RockShox.
That's exciting.
We're excited. We're expanding the show to include some of our amazing, talented team members like yourself, because you've got an incredible story, inspiring, and we want to show the world that not only do we have great external ambassadors, but we have amazing internal ambassadors too.
Let's do it. I'm so excited for this.
Welcome, Allison. Well, you know the show. We go through a whole series of questions and just get to know you a little bit better. And one of our big focuses towards the end is going to be on advocacy and community and making this world a better place. But let's start out with some of the basics, like where were you born?
I was born in this great town called Amarillo, Texas.
Ooh, nice. What was so great about Amarillo?
Nothing. You stopped through it. It's the reason it exists. It was too far from Dallas to Albuquerque. So you stopped in Amarillo. It became a town. They found some oil. They have a lot of cows there now and a lot of wind.
But you weren't there very long, were you?
No. But I still have a lot of family that live there. So I go down occasionally to hang out with them. But yeah, no, I moved. I don't remember it. I call myself a Colorado native, but it's technically not true. I grew up here in Colorado Springs, lived here for a majority of my life. And, Amarillo just happens to be a birthplace and where family lives.
Yeah. What did your parents do when you were growing up?
My mom was a physical therapist and my dad was a jack of all trades.
Really?
Yeah.
Did he have any specialty, or
I would say he was a concrete specialist. Like if he needed concrete laid in the weirdest way, he knew how to do it. But that's not what I never knew him as that. I found that out later in life, but he did everything. So he had an bed and breakfast, a rock climbing store, a whitewater rafting company. He built his own airplanes. Yeah, he did everything. So he was jack of all trades.
That's cool. Well, that must have been inspiring growing up. So let's talk about some of the cool things you did growing up.
Yeah, my family was super outdoors. Like my mom was really driven to get me and my sister outside. We did everything. We grew up in a neighborhood full of boys. And so it was fight or flight. And we chose to play and chose to be a part of the crew. And that's what it was. It was get outside, figure out how to do things, and flag football, basketball, baseball, whitewater rafting, rock climbing. I did not enjoy tennis, so that we never did tennis ball sports, but anything else, we were totally into it.
And you mentioned sister, a younger sister, older sister, and where is she?
Irish twin sister on the younger side, so we're less than a year apart. And younger, but we really idolized each other in different ways, and so it was really cool to grow up with that situation.
Where is she in the world, and what does she do?
My sister is a PA for an orthopedic oncologist surgeon out in Long Island. She resides in Huntington Station, has an amazing husband and a beautiful 5-year-old that is, I am the world's best auntie. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Do you love being an aunt?
I love being an aunt. Absolutely. I get him all the toys that his parents won't get him, and the ones with lots of noise. But I got him a child-sized Stihl chainsaw.
Ooh.
Yeah. Auntie's awesome.
With a working chain, like it can cut?
It was a rubber chain, but yeah, it's fun. So he'd walk up to me. He knows that I have one leg, and he'd walk up to people and cut their legs off and stuff like that. It's just too cute. It made the noise. You pull the draw and everything. And I have an actual chainsaw, so he'd see me use mine, and then he'd go get his, and
Oh, that's rad.
we do chainsaws together. Yeah.
That's rad. Growing up, Allison, what did you always want to do when you were older?
I knew I'd be an engineer. Other than sports, outside of those two things, I was so competitive and I enjoyed sports and I loved the drive. I loved challenging myself. But at the same time, we had Legos, we had erector sets, we had kinetics and all the build stuff. And I'd take stuff apart and build other stuff. And I knew I'd be an engineer of some sort growing up. Maybe thought about being a prosthetist, but me and chemistry didn't get along so well. So I stuck to mechanical engineering.
You think that was influenced a little bit by your dad, or where'd that come from?
I had no idea. I think both my mom and my dad were very hands-on and do it yourself, like DIY. Never was the one to hire someone if they could do it themselves. And so I think that was just what toys we had and where my interest was. And if I needed to fix something, I'd find a screwdriver, duct tape, and, just get her done attitude.
That's amazing. Well, Allison, you mentioned your leg, and so it's part of who you are, and so tell us about that story.
Yeah, no. So I was born without my femur, or underdeveloped, and so at a young age, when I was 9 months old, my mom made the decision to have my knee fused, what I had of a knee, it really isn't a knee, and my foot amputated so that I could wear a prosthetic and walk as early as I possibly could. She knew, being a physical therapist, she knew it was very important to keep me in step with, childhood development. And so having a prosthetic when I was 11 months old, I was walking, I was driven, I was, doing everything as much as I could as, having my sister helped. We always tried to do stuff together. I did things differently. Learning to ride a bike included duct tape to hold my foot to the pedal. Climbing a tree, like I couldn't jump nearly as well, so my sister would help me get to the first limb. But once I had the first branch, we would both be scaling through the tree. Occasionally my leg fell off while I was in the tree. So that made interesting stories. But that was who I was, and that's who our family was. It was always trying to figure out how to do things together and do things as a family. And that's kind of how I ended up in ski racing, is learning to ski through the NSCD, the National Sports Center for the Disabled, up in Winter Park. And basically my mom, as a single mom at the time, would carry my sister up, point her down the hill and let her ski down. And then no phase, just put one ski on me, carried me up the hill, pointed that ski down the hill, and then let go. And, I just glided like my sister, and we did everything together. It was always trying to do stuff together as a family. So it wasn't ever really what I couldn't do. It was just how were we going to do it together. And so I never knew a closed door. And if a door was closed, I was the person that busted through it. Like I didn't like being told no. I didn't like being told you can't do that because you have one leg. My neighborhood, we play two-hand touch. I just had to do one-hand touch. Like we did simple little modifications, but I was always included, and I was always a part of that atmosphere and that environment. That it really, I didn't know a difference. I just knew that I had to adapt. I had to do it differently, but I could be a part of everything.
God, I can't imagine growing up at that young of an age, not quote unquote looking like everyone else, and that being such an obstacle. Were you, self-conscious, or did you just steamroll through things and not give a
kids
damn?
Are unfiltered. Definitely had to learn words were powerful. Learning with my neighborhood was great. They just treated me like another kid. But you go to elementary school, middle school, it's definitely tough. It's tough. Self-esteem days where you felt like not good. And I grew more of a chip on my shoulder than anything, and I defended myself. I may have gotten in trouble a couple times doing that. My uncle taught me don't hit first, hit second. So I'd use words until a certain point, and then again, growing up with boys, I was ready to defend myself and rumble. But I think it was a challenging time, and we definitely as a family got through it because my mom was pissed at the system. I wasn't thrilled with the system. And so my whole family would just rally behind me. It's like, what do you expect? Like kids are mean. They can, and some kids are great. Some kids are your best friends and others aren't, and they can't handle different. And, it's just a matter of getting through it. And I think at this point in my life, like looking back, I'm glad I went through the situations I went through. I wasn't sheltered. I wasn't coddled. And so I have a perspective that not everyone has when it comes to dealing with adversity, dealing with difference, and being able to just steamroll through it. Like right now, I'm just like, whatever. If you have a problem, that's your problem. Actually, it's not mine, because you're closing your own viewpoints and your own perspectives, and you have to be able to open them back up.
Right. It's a great outlook. Let's switch then to your initial athletic career. You became an accomplished skier at a certain age, right? And did you have visions of going to the Olympics? And tell us about that story.
I think as a kid, I started ski racing when I was 8, just as any other junior racer, going to the events I could go to. Living in the Springs, we had to commute a lot, so that was one of the biggest hurdles was just time. And then, I had no idea what the Paralympics were, but we had a huge adaptive ski team, like on the national team, like under US Ski and Snowboard. And they were my role models. Man, it was so cool to see these women and men that were representing Team USA. They got to race all over the world, and I wanted to be a part of that. Like, I didn't know that you go out for the Paralympics. I didn't know they existed, but I wanted to be a part of that group of athletes because they were elite athletes with, just skiing differently. And that's what I wanted to do. And it just, it kind of just streamlined from there. Went to high school up in Grand County, which is Winter Park, and skied half the day for high school credit. It was really awesome. And then made the national team. My senior year, of course, was the Salt Lake City Paralympics. And so it was just kind of this career just evolved in front of me. And doors were open, and it was a matter of just walking through them and taking advantage of the situation and having the role models there, having the support network there, and, just going through with it and loving life skiing. It was absolute blast. Like, again, ski, go to school, who could complain?
That's amazing. For those of us that aren't super familiar with how someone with one leg skis, do you wear a prosthetic and a second ski? Do you use outriggers? Tell us about that.
Yeah, so with my disability, I ski with just the one leg. I don't have hip control, so my ski would do whatever. I'd end up crossing tips. The cool part about one ski is you never cross tips.
Oh, yeah.
There's no problem with that. And then use the outriggers, and they're like forearm crutches with little ski tips on the end, and they literally are. I take old skis and cut off the ski tips and put them on the end, and they're more there for balance. They're like how you use ski poles more as a whisker than to actually lean on. So it's a lot of standing on one leg and just using gravity. And the skis the same as if you had two legs or one leg, and so it was a matter of just doing it and having fun.
In the adaptive category, I'm just curious to learn more about this. In the adaptive category or para category for skiing, do you ski with, are there different categories? Do you ski with?
Yeah, so you have visually impaired, so folks that ski with a guide in front of them that varying ranges. And then you have sit skiers, folks that are paralyzed or missing both their legs. And then you have stand-up skiers. And so anybody that skis on skis standing upright, and whether they use outriggers, no poles, one pole, one ski, we all ski together. And then we use what's called a factor system. And the best way to compare that to is like a golf handicap. The more impaired you are, the more your time gets reduced by a percentage. The least impaired you are, the least your time is reduced by a percentage. And it's discipline dependent. I'm downhill. I don't have two skis to stay in a tuck the entire time. So I have more of an, factor. So I get more time taken off. But slalom, I actually get to straddle every other gate because I only have one ski to get through the plane of the gate. So I actually am the 0 mark. So I don't get any time taken off, and everybody's chasing me.
Interesting.
As a factor, but it's all, course dependent, and they do statisticians. They actually bring in math professors to develop this so that it's a fair system, or as fair as it can be. And so they do that to equalize the field. And I say for the majority it works. There are some outlier years where you're like, I'm not convinced the numbers are quite right, but there's not much you can do. So as an athlete, you just look past it and you do your best.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. I'm glad you.
There are a few years you're like, wait, he fell, got up, and still won the race. I'm confused.
Well, they were just really fast.
Yeah, but in general, for an example, some of these guys are really fast, and they've just set the bar so high that you just have to step up your game, and that's the whole goal. If you take the right mentality, it's just about stepping up your own game.
Yeah. All right. So tell us about this. You've got a couple cool medals that you've got hanging up somewhere. Tell us about your first one.
Yeah, so Salt Lake City, giant slalom. Actually, that was Super G. One of the races we swept. It was the Team USA sweep, and it was absolutely amazing. Yeah, I want to say it was the Super G. It was me, Sarah Billmeyer, and Sandy Ducat. And to have your first Paralympic medal, it was silver, so I didn't win gold, but you still got to hear the national anthem at 17, still in high school, in your home turf, so in Salt Lake, so the whole family was there. Big cheering crowd, good celebration afterwards. It was one of the best, absolutely.
And so 2 of your teammates came in first and third?
Yeah.
Amazing.
So it was an American sweep on American home turf.
Amazing. So that was silver, and then did you go on?
That was silver, so that was the beginning. So then it was silver, another silver in giant slalom, so like 2 days later or a day later. And then 2 years later would have been Athens for cycling. And so that's that 2002 year was kind of the big year of doing 2 full sports, high school graduation, college beginning, just the beginning of, kind of a chaotic next 10 years.
Okay, so tell us about the transition from skiing to cycling. That's not, normally once a skier, always a skier, or once a cyclist, always a cyclist. But you kind of drifted away from skiing into cycling, and now you more identify as a cyclist than a skier.
Yeah. I was always looking for a summer sport. My mom was single mom, and with another, 2 kids working full time. My sister played soccer really well, so she was also doing the club soccer thing. We couldn't afford for me to go to the snow in the summer. I couldn't get to Mount Hood. I couldn't get to Chile. I couldn't get down to, Australia, New Zealand. So I was always looking for a summer sport, something to do to stay in shape, stay athletic. And I'm also just competitive, keep busy. So I started with swimming. And then in high school, they said 4:30 practice. I said, nope, I'm going to find another sport that does not include 2 practices a day at extreme hours. Not going to happen. And so 1998, the Paracycling World Championship showed up to Colorado Springs. I didn't know what I was going to. I thought we were just going to a local track race. Growing up here in the Springs, the velodrome, you'd see the lights on, and Mom would drag us down there, and we'd go watch bike races. And I think we had Junior Worlds here one year, and so that was fun to watch. But when we walked into the velodrome, the first thing I saw was a guy with no hands and no feet doing a standing start.
Ooh. And
I just looked at my mom and I said, I want to do that. Like, I don't know, like, I didn't even know what it was, but I was like, I want to do that. That looks awesome. And so we flagged down an American coach, and he pointed us to the local junior club here in Colorado Springs under Mark Tyson, and basically got in touch with everybody. And next thing I know, I was learning to ride a track bike in the grass field outside the velodrome. And I didn't know I had like a kid's bike, right? Like your Huffy from Target. But I didn't have a racing bike. I didn't know what that was. And so learning to ride a skinny tired bike with no brakes, fixed gear. I didn't have clipless pedals, like none of it. I didn't have chamois. I didn't have anything. So, but it was just absolute blast. And again, it was like a sense of freedom again, like just being able to go out and do it. It was so much fun. And yeah, so that was the start of the cycling career. So that became the summer sport. They ended up complementing each other really well. Skiing's very strength-based. So I'd come into the cycling season being able to do a 1K or 500 really well. And then by the end of the cycling season, I'd built all my endurance back, doing time trials and road races. And then that would lead to the beginning of the ski season when you need to be in the gym a whole bunch, you need to be on the hill a whole bunch. So like an 8-hour workout day for skiing was easy because my endurance, I never taxed the endurance side of what I just gained from cycling, and so I did this evolution. My body hated me for about 10 years where I'd go from being super heavy to as light as I could be, super heavy to as light. Not doing any silly like wrestling, weight cutting or anything like that, but just naturally transitioning through the year. I took October off was my month off. And then otherwise it was 11 months of training.
At what point, I'm curious on that, at what point in the year were you your fittest and leanest? Was it in the ski cycle or the bike cycle?
I would say cycling. Coming out of the cycling season, I was the leanest. I would come, I would lose as much weight as I could by changing the way I ate and then, cutting down extra fat. Skiing's a gravity sport. I wouldn't lie that beers were ample and plenty and, you just ate good, healthy portions because you'd be working out in the gym, you'd be working out on the hill. So, and then you get into cycling where weight counts. And so you go the other direction with really leaning up the diet, leaning up what you're eating and watching the 12-ounce curls and how that goes. And really just, playing that game. I still pretty much ate what I wanted, but it was just, watching the portion sizes and being strategic about what I ate.
Yeah. Allison, let's come back to cycling and in what category you would compete in. And I'm curious, would you wear a prosthetic or single leg? Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah. So on the bike for racing, I ride with one leg. And my dad actually helped me design and develop what I call the strut. And so if you imagine the triangle of a bike and you take the middle of the top tube down to the bottom bracket, my engineering brain said all the weight should go through the bottom bracket. It doesn't go through the seat post. It doesn't go through the top tube. It doesn't go anywhere. It goes through the bottom bracket. When you really think about it, it's your handlebars and your feet. And so as I was designing this, I was in engineering school. I'm starting to learn all this thing about kinematics and stuff like that. And I was like, I really want to design this so it goes through the bottom bracket. And we designed the strut, and it's basically a stationary pedal in the middle of the frame that is on an extension from the middle of the top tube down to the bottom bracket. And all it does is allow me to clip in on the right side. It doesn't power the bike. It doesn't, engage the drivetrain at all. But it gives me a platform to pull and use all of my pelvis and all of that core muscle and everything, and then stand up out of the saddle. So climbing and standing starts, I'm not seated the entire time. And so I use that as my adaptive equipment. But other than that, that's the only thing I change on the bike. It's just otherwise a standard road bike with normal, red axis or whatever's on it, latest and greatest.
And that in the Olympics, was that strut legal?
Yes. So with adaptive cycling, you're allowed to create adaptations. It is UCI. I have UCI stickers all over everything. So the bike has the ones, embedded in the frame. And then for this, you have to get equipment checks. And there are rules and regulations. And I read the rules and the regulations. And I tried to cut every corner I could. I did not go to the full extent of getting questioned. I'd say I went safe middle ground, but there's definitely some things I wanted to exploit and take advantage of for sure.
Can you give us an example of one of those?
So you're
things
allowed
that would have pushed
between any joint member. So that's where you see the bottom bracket. You're allowed 8 centimeters of material above that. Yeah. Well, now I just put another joint member in there, so I'd be allowed another 8 centimeters on top of that.
2 joint members.
I would fill up basically the bottom third of every triangle if I wanted to add in all of the support material I needed.
Got it.
And so basically I'd be turning it to one of those silly triathlon bikes that's all carbon and no guts. I don't know. Like, those bikes look ugly to me. But so I could have done that. Instead, I built up like 3 centimeters of support, so it didn't stand out like this giant aerofoil thing that's across the entire lower half of the bike.
Yeah. If you're going out for a daily ride today, you don't throw a strut on that. What do you do?
I mean, so then as I say, when I go mountain biking or I go gravel riding or I go coffee shop riding, I wear my leg. I have an older leg that is no longer very good for walking, and basically have the toe the right angle. And I just wear clipless and go out for, a regular ride with my leg on there. If it's going to be just a cross country ride where it's going to be easy, tame mountain biking, I'll probably ditch my leg and just go with the one leg because I know I'm more powerful that way. But if the down's worth it, I will absolutely drag like 8 pounds of useless weight around with me so that I can go rail some turns and do some drops and stuff like that with the mountain bike. So otherwise, yeah, I can jump on any bike. Like if my bike gets left in Colorado Springs and we fly off and the airline makes the mistake, I can jump on a teammate's bike and go for a ride and, just enjoy life.
That's awesome. Allison, in either skiing or cycling throughout your competitive years, did you ever have any scary moments or bizarre crashes?
Yeah, so that's the what ended my skiing career actually. And it wasn't like, oh my gosh, I'm in the hospital. I was doing the slalom race in Sochi. And for those that are squeamish or not squeamish, there's YouTube of this, but basically in the slalom, my tip hooked up. It was very horrible conditions in March, and the ski basically stopped. My knee went uphill and my chest went downhill. Oh. So I basically folded my knee in half, got up and finished the race like nothing happened. The doctor that was watching the closed circuit feed actually called the base where our staff was and said, you need to check her knee out when she gets to the bottom. Like I hadn't finished racing yet. He knew like that was not good. And so got to the bottom, felt fine. I was like, I don't know what you guys are talking about. Like I just kind of stuttered. I don't get it. Then I watched the video and I was like, oh my God, like how did that just happen? It was a little sore the next day. And then I was training again for cycling. I was doing one of those cable pulls and you do a press out. But all the weight goes through the inside of your knee, and I felt like I was going to fall on the ground. I had no stability, absolutely nothing whatsoever. So we got I immediately luckily at the training center, the gym is next to Sports Med. I quit mid workout, ran to Sports Med, and I'm like, my knee, I've got one knee. This is my baby. Like, what is going on? They're like, you just stretched it. You somehow did not tear a thing. And to me, that was just like the Kismet gods going, stop ski racing. Like you managed to go an entire career. So from 1992 until 2014 without a knee injury. Wow. How about we stop? And so that was like my, okay, I'm done ski racing. This is not that I was already done, but I was like, I'm never going back. There's no thought of going back to ski racing. I am happy that my knee is in one piece and no surgery. Yeah. And I got really darn close to taking that out of the water. And so to me, that was my injury that, sounds good.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. Do you ski for fun today though?
Absolutely. I try to get out at least a couple weekends a year. Living in Oregon for 4 years, that didn't happen. The snow is I grew up in Colorado. It's beautiful, powdery, light snow. Oregon dishes out this heavy, wet concrete, and it wasn't fun. So getting back to Colorado now, I'm back in powdery snow. I had the biggest grin on my face a couple weekends ago when I was out skiing instead of training on my bike and sending my coach the photos of all the snow accumulating on me while I was on the chairlift going, I'm glad I made this decision today.
Awesome. All right. So you wrap up with the Olympics, the Paralympics, bunch of medals, and then what? Did you decide, hey, I want to really pursue this degree in mechanical engineering and see what's next?
Absolutely. And that was the whole goal. I graduated college in 2007. I went straight into sports full time till about 2011. Picked up some side gig. I was a strategic recruiter for a while. I was horrible at it. I wanted to hire everybody. I didn't see why people who were applying for a job should get a job. That's how I felt. And then eventually that rolled into my neighbor starting up a 3D printing company. And so he already knew my schedule. He knew I'd be part-time, and he just let me be an engineer. And so that was the cool part. I got to dabble back into engineering while I was finishing up the skiing and starting into the cycling as my only sport. And so worked with Titan Robotics here in Colorado Springs for several years. And then, the savings account was still pretty empty.
Yeah.
So in 2017, I really made a concerted effort to actually retire from sports as my main income and get that engineering degree so that at some point I could actually retire and go back to having full-time fun.
Yeah.
And so, that's, I ended up in Oregon with a precision automation company out there, and it was a great fit. They let me be the new green engineer that I was, even though it was way past graduation date, and fit in really well. Great crew, great people, learned a ton. And then, now I'm back here. I'm with SRAM. That's kind of the end goal, right? Be outside, back in cycling, back using the engineering degree in the outdoor industry, and really excited for that. Yeah.
When did you start working at SRAM?
September 12th, 2022. So 5 months ago or 6 months ago.
Great. And tell us about your role today and what do you do?
Yeah, so I'm with Rear Shock. I'm designing some new cool technologies. It's going to make the Rear Shock even better. It's a long-term goals for the team. That's been really great because I actually don't know much about suspension. And they knew that when they hired me, that I'm a road cyclist. I know everything about time trial bike, track bike, and road bike. But that being said, I think giving me the opportunity to learn Rear Shock and be a part of the team and develop some new cool things that not necessarily part of the hydraulic fluid system, but what will make the Rear Shock better in the long run for some outside technologies. And then, just looking at what we currently use and how we can make it better, wiper seals and just different things that you always want to continuously improve and to be that best shock. I got lucky to show up right as Pink Bike named us as the best shock of the year. And so it was really cool to see the whole crew go up and get those honors. And then, what can I do for the next shock or for the shocks after that, that help keep that ball rolling in that great direction.
Do you love the fact that you're now working in the cycling industry and you're a cyclist and you're in Colorado? It's like all the stars and planets are aligned, right?
Yeah. I will say the first time we went out for a test ride, I immediately texted and messaged all of my coworkers back in Oregon, telling them that, look what I'm doing right now, and I'm on the clock. And right. I got some exultations and some amazing text messages back as they were stuck in the office. But it definitely was like, I'm excited because I get to play bikes all the time now. And I've always been interested in bikes. I've always been interested in the outdoors, and the fact that, if I'm going to, I'd say this, that working in the automation, I got to work on a lot of consumer electronics, and it drove me nuts that I was making some gizmo better. And I didn't really care about that gizmo. I had no desire for that new fancy $3,000 gizmo that someone wanted, and we had to make thousands of them. But helping bikes and people get outside and people enjoy outside, great outdoors, being athletic or being, active, to me is just a great way to put it all together and really get a community around that and get people the accessibility to get outside. And that to me is way more powerful, way more meaning to me as a person as a whole. Working for SRAM is the best place I could be. I'm back in Colorado Springs where I grew up, so I'm really excited about that as well.
That's cool. Allison, that's a perfect transition into our fourth section of the show, which talks about community. We feel like the position of an athlete, especially a decorated and celebrated one like yourself, is one of responsibility, and that we're this aspirational society and lots of kids and younger people look up to pros and athletes, right? And they want to mimic things they do. And, you're in a very highly influential position. So I'm just curious to learn a little bit more about the things you do off the bike to make this world a better place. So tell us about Mile High 365.
Yeah, so Mile High 360 is a youth outreach group up in Denver. And basically it started with squash, funny enough, and moved into cycling. And they decided that, they took these inner city kids that did not have the resources they needed to be successful. And empowering sport, getting these kids motivated and engaged into things that take them outside of their not best environments, and really cultivate community, teamwork, responsibility, and dedication, getting these kids to great places. And most of these, their families have never been to college, and these will be your first generation college students. And that's their whole goal, is they start mentoring them when they're in middle school, get them through high school, help them with a job, the college applications, and really get them on a career path that they want to succeed at. And I think we have a super high, rate of getting kids into college, which is really great. And then there's the whole cycling aspect. They have a fleet of bikes. They're at this little campus that they have in Denver, and the kids go out on group rides. They go out on long adventures. They did the Steamboat Gravel Race last year.
Nice.
And had a blast. Some kids get so motivated, they'll go to summer things out on like the East Coast, where they ride up the entire, southern, southeast coast, or things of that nature, where they take it outside of what Mile High 360 does. And it really is an organization that's revolved around these kids. And it's watching them. We get to hear the success stories of those that are either now mentors back at Mile High 360. They've gone through college. Some are freshmen in college, are still coming back. They're staying local. And, during the pandemic, we had this real drive to help out the families. Food was in short supply in a lot of places, and getting essential needs like families losing jobs and stuff like that. And so this whole group just really wants to see these kids succeed. And that doesn't just end in the classroom. It's about the lifestyle of, how sports are very impactful, and then how to take care of the home when situations are really dire.
Yeah. What would your specific role be in the organization? Do you volunteer? Do you coach? Do you mentor?
I'm on the board, so it's really helping, making sure that any of the activities we're doing are going towards the kids. And then, riding with the kids, try to get up. They come down to the Springs. I'll get in with them. If I get up to Denver, I remember one year coming back from Oregon, I was here for my birthday or something like that. And we decided, do this event and then hit up a Rockies game. But really, being a mentor, being able to ride with these guys. And, to me, they're more inspirational than I ever am, because they're riding with these really, originally they were horrible bikes, and they go out and do 50 miles with whatever, like tennis shoes laced up and maybe a water bottle that didn't squeeze, but they just did it. It was so cool to see. And that's where they're at. These kids are motivated, and it's really awesome to see that there's an organization that is there to help. We did a Swift thing over the COVID break when we couldn't all be together, and just really trying to make sure that there's community there, and then any events that are going on, helping organize, and, making sure the resources or, activities are there that they need.
Nice. At Steamboat, did you ride with a group?
I was at Worlds, unfortunately. I really was planning on being there. I was planning on joining actually a Paralympic reunion group that we put together. And then, one of my goals was to be out there with the kids and riding with the kids as a member of Mile High 360. Unfortunately, I decided to go back to racing, and I made it back to Worlds, and they overlapped. So I was really bummed about that.
Well, how'd you do at Worlds?
I wasn't last. No, actually, fifth and fourth. So not bad.
That's solid. That's a podium in some communities.
That is, but it's also, for me, it was 4 years of not racing, and then deciding about 12 months in advance that I would start training again. So not even in condition. I'd been doing some CrossFit as fun stuff to do in Oregon. And then I got this bug that I'd see what my numbers look like, called up my coach and said, I think I want to do this again. He said, sure. Okay. And then, we really worked over the summer there in Oregon. And I would say I'm really happy with where I was. And I'm happy now that I've got more than a year and change under my belt, training and stuff like that.
Yeah. Coming back to Mile High 360. So do you think Steamboat is in the cards for this year with the group?
I think we're planning on another ride like that, and I think it is in the group. We are working towards that. We're trying to actually grow down to Colorado Springs, and we're trying to do our own events,
Oh, nice.
similar to what like Steamboat Gravel Ride is, where take care of our dues and then the rest go as much as we can back to Mile High 360 to sponsor more kids and get more outreach up the Front Range.
Amazing organization. We'll make sure we put the links and such in the show notes. Allison, are there any other organizations that you're involved in? I'd be curious about the para community. Do you work with them? Do you advise? What else do you do?
I think the biggest thing I do with the para community is new athletes. If they're here locally or if I can get to them, I enjoy riding with them. I enjoy doing that. Adaptive mountain rock climbing. I've been a rock climber my whole life. And was lucky to know, had some inside connections with City Rock. So I really got back into City Rock, I should say. And they have a great adaptive group. And what was nice is they recognized that I didn't need coaching. They just wanted me there to help. And that's absolutely, as soon as they said that, I said, I'm in. Absolutely. Yeah. So I literally go climb on Saturdays in the morning, to just be there and be present and, coach if I can, like just years of experience. I'm not like a professional rock climber. I'm just a big enthusiast and really getting part of that. For the cycling, I help build adaptive devices for my teammates. So if they have a unique, I know one guy's a hemiplegic, so he paralyzed on one side and couldn't keep his arm on the aero bar. So we built basically like a cup, designed it, 3D printed it, and then he had a prosthetist actually make it out of carbon. But we did all the initial upfront work with that. And then, just helping people adapt, figuring out how we can make outdoor activities more accessible. Because the medical industry sucks with how much things cost. So if we can do it with 3D printing and simple designs and making things just that much easier for people to enjoy, I absolutely love doing that. New athletes, I'm always up for the athlete ride and getting out there and helping the community. I'm also a big proponent of DEI. I think we all should have a little introspective of what's out there and around us, and whether you identify with a certain group or you feel, like you're a minority in the general scheme. I think there's a community that can be around you and rally behind you and rally for you. And I think that is really important to me that's there. I had that as my family and friends when I was a kid. And I feel like it's just very easy to give back in a very simple way of creating, safe spaces and inclusion in different groups and aspects.
Have you ever participated in or attended one of the Rome Fest events?
I haven't. Now that I'm back in the spring, so I'm actually wanting to get out to Rome Fest. It's all schedule dependent and racing dependent, so I'm not sure it'll happen this year, but hopefully after 2024, when I reevaluate this whole racing silliness, if I'll get more in my schedule. But I absolutely love Rome Fest, the idea of Rome Fest and what it's about, and giving back to that community. Absolutely.
That's amazing. We just had Ash and Andy Zoltan on our show a couple weeks ago. Nice. So their episode will drop a little bit before yours, but an incredible organization, incredible leadership, and I love what they're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime you can get more people on bikes in safe places and safe environment and comfortable, I think it's a win for the community.
Yeah. Coming back to City Rock, I'd be curious, are they a nonprofit that focuses on, kids and education?
No, City Rock is literally a downtown climbing gym.
Got it.
And they just, they have adaptive program. And I think they saw this need that, again, a comfortable space for folks with, disabilities, whether it's, birth or incurred, can go climb and not feel overwhelmed, because City Rock, climbing indoors can be very congested. And they just give it a great place for these kids. And, when I say kids, literally, I think I saw like an 8-year-old who had to have had a stroke or something, that was climbing with one hand and one arm and one foot and mastering up these walls. So it was really, really neat to see that there's, and I don't know what grew it, but it's an amazing group. They saw me and they invited me right in. And I think that was, to me, a very welcoming space.
That's cool. Switching gears or changing gears just a little bit. I'm curious, I've always thought SRAM had an advantage technologically with some of its components in the adaptive community, specifically with wireless shifting, wireless blips, and those types of products. I'd be curious what your take would be on that.
I think so. I'm going to give a great example. My teammate, Katie Brem, she is a partial quad. She had a bad surgery, and she uses the wireless system because in hand cycles, it's all moving. So your shifters would have to move with your hands. So then now you've got these big butterflies of cabling and wiring going everywhere. They eliminated that by putting arrow blips next to her head, and she literally taps and shifts with a one-by system with her head. So now her shifting is no longer in her hands with the cables or anything going in circles everywhere. I know we have wireless now, but it's one less thing that's rotating, is she literally can just tap her head which direction she wants to go with her shifting on the one-by system.
That's incredible. So for the people listening just on audio only here, Allison was moving her head left and right, indicating, that you could literally shift just by turning your head.
Yeah, by a shake of your head with how you're going. So if you're climbing, you're not worrying about, with, partially paralyzed hands, you don't have great grip strength and coordination and trying to shift. To me, that's the other thing with people with dexterity issues, hitting paddles. You'll see guys that have no arms and they'll put their shifting on their top tube. And it used to be like literally a paddle, but now with the ETAP system, you can literally put those blips and those clicks everywhere. So they shift with their knees by tapping their top tube, and while they're pedaling and while they're riding, and being able to adapt a bike so that everybody can ride it and make it easier for access and getting things done.
I've always thought we should dedicate some resources to that, because I think our technological advantage is just above and beyond.
Absolutely. I think there's a huge market out there. There's a huge group that will benefit from this, and making things as simple as possible, as intuitive as possible, just allows more users to use it. And then, to me, the wireless thing was just revolutionary with the whole, you don't have to tear bikes apart to get to batteries. Don't have to try to figure out how to get a cable from your front to back through the frame now or outside the frame, or if there's tension. And, to me, it was just, it was easy to say yes to with the ETAP system. And now we're getting into access and what it all involves. And mountain biking is doing its share too with the one-by systems and the single paddles and stuff like that. So it's all just making it more and more accessible for different individuals and, differently abled folks.
Yeah, totally. All right, Allison, wrapping up section 5 here. This is our psych profile, just to see what you like and what you don't like. You ready?
Excited, yes.
All right, pancakes or waffles?
Pancakes.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Tacos or burritos?
Burrito.
Spicy or mild?
Spicy.
Cold weather or hot weather?
Middle weather.
Rain or snow?
Snow.
The mountains or the beach?
The mountains.
Cities or suburbs?
City, I guess.
Cars or trucks?
Truck.
Pavement or dirt?
Dirt.
Gloves or gloveless?
Gloveless.
Clipped in or flat pedals?
I go clipped in.
Low pressure in your tires or high pressure in your tires?
I'd say high pressure, 200 PSI. Let's go track bikes.
Fix it yourself or take it to a mechanic?
Fix it myself.
Last up is dogs or cats?
I'm going to go with dogs. I have both, but I'll lean with the dogs. Sorry, Davis.
Yeah. Allison Jones, it's been a pleasure. You are awesome. I love what you do. Thank you for being an amazing powerhouse on and off the bike. So great to hear your story. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, thank you. And thanks for putting this out there, because I might have the story, but I need someone to tell it, because it's not going to be me.
Yeah. No, well, it's a great story. All right. Have a good day and enjoy the rest of the week.
Thank you. You too.
Cheers.